just the lockdown stuff gets to the stage where it's,
No,
it's
I
good
can't
that
be
you've got
asked.
guaranteed
It
something to talk
it was
about every week.
it was the first time I'd actually looked up lockdown stuff for like 4 weeks. Like I've just stayed away from it. Uh, well, hello everybody, and welcome back to the next episode of this podcast. What episode are we on now?
Hello.
Episode seven.
It's
Seven.
like
Jesus,
7.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ! Doing this for nearly 2 months, Sean. We're getting old. Uh,
Our viewers are getting old listening to us talk about shite all day.
absolutely. But yeah, no. Welcome back. It's going to be a very chilled, laid back one today. So yeah, it's going
I
to
like
be.
your t-shirt. I just
Oh,
noticed
thank
it.
you. Yeah, no, it's Cornetto
I'm
trilogy.
sure I've seen it before, but
Yes, Cornetto trilogy. If you've ever, I actually wore this one when I came up. I think both times. I love this top. Everywhere I go, this top comes with me.
yes, I know.
So yeah, no, absolutely. Lots to talk about. Lots of stuff has happened. So I guess we'll
Yeah.
start with the most depressing shit, which is the wonderful topic of lockdown.
Yeah. Well, I
And
suppose our loose schedule is talking about lockdown first, then
it's like it seems to
general
be
news.
news, games, films, and
Yeah.
TV.
Games, films, and conspiracy.
Yeah,
And
that kind of stuff, and then we just get into the conspiracy. It works. It works, man. Why change
well,
something if it works?
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But yeah, so
Down. Would you like
yeah.
to start?
Sure, absolutely. So the first thing I wanted to touch on today was the fact that we have actually, in the UK now, gone back into second place for the most deaths, sadly, passing 40,000 deaths, which isn't surprising to me, which sounds a bit horrible. But another thing was, I was going to actually ask, coming off of this, because watching a lot of information in the last couple of days, as do you reckon the government are being fully truthful, possibly lying, when they're telling us information and things like that, talking about how they're going, how they could lock down again straight away without an issue if something was to happen.
They're talking about this thing like they're moving away from national lockdown into regional lockdowns.
Yeah.
They've never actually used that word though, and like other places are doing. It's like we'll just target specific places and
Yeah.
like hospitals or something and just close it down. So I don't think they do have a plan. I don't think they're actually planning to lock anything down again.
Yeah, no, but obviously on the note of the deaths and stuff, not I think in the last daily update, which wasn't yesterday, I think it was the day before when Boris was doing it, he mentioned how, or I think it was the health secretary or something that said how this could possibly be a second wave. Unfortunately, due to the fact that cases have gone up ever so slightly, they reckon the R has increased again, but back to like 0.7, between 0.7 and 1. What's kind of your take on that? Did you kind of see this coming? Do you think it is a second wave, or do you think they're kind of just jumping the gun a bit because they're concerned about what could possibly happen?
I think they're just kind of covering all potential scenarios, I suppose. I know that the R in my region is definitely above 1, so I know some regions are like not even hit the peak of this virus yet, which is quite concerning. But yeah, they're just kind of covering the backs in case of another disaster. But I don't know if there will be a second peak. I've heard some scientists talking about the virus will die out on its own and stuff like that. So.
I don't know. I think for me it's very much a
wait till winter.
watching Boris in the House as well. Just the arsehole will not answer anything. He just has these bullshit little fucking push away answers that just go, oh no, ignore the question. I know what I'm doing. I'm Prime Minister. I mean, I'm just like Trump, but I'm the Prime Minister. I know what I'm doing. And it's I don't know. It's shocking to me that so many good questions were getting brought up to him. Kind of, especially with Keir Starmer, right? Keir Starmer. By the way, just for clarification, I'm not a Labour or a Conservative. I don't vote for either. But Keir Starmer brought up a very good point, is the fact that Johnson hasn't been replying to private conversations and stuff with different politicians. And it's just kind of, if he has been replying, he's not been telling the same thing in the House.
Inconsistent.
And what made it more drastic is that Keir Starmer actually brought these into the House and said, yeah, they can go public. just to prove. Do you think that's kind of like a power move on Keir Starmer's part to try and maybe sway the public to vote Labour, or do you think it's a genuine thing? Hi, Peach. Do you think it's a genuine thing?
Yeah, these politicians, they're all like trained to give you non-answers all the time, and I don't think you'd ever get a clear answer if you asked them, is this black or white? That's a bad reference at the moment. But,
absolutely.
But so I think he's definitely trying to get people on board with Labour. I've always been a Labour supporter, but I'm not sure about Keir Starmer. I wasn't sure about Jeremy Corbyn, but I'm not sure about him. I need him to prove himself yet.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, my personal opinion is I like how Keir Starmer is treating Boris. The way he's putting so much pressure on him. He's asking the questions people want answers to, and Boris is just deflecting constantly. He's not giving them any information. I think that's where Boris is just losing control, massively. He's digging himself a bigger hole. I don't kind of know what how is, because this brings me on to my next point. It's the huge drop in trust in the government. At the beginning of this lockdown, they had pretty much nearly 100%. Well, I wouldn't say 100%. But around the 75, kind of 85% mark of people trusting them. Whereas now, we don't know, because they did do a thing recently. The government did do that thing again, where they were kind of like, well, how do you feel about your government? They haven't released the figures for this one.
Interesting.
But Keir Starmer did point something out in the House, which was that the approval rating is the lowest it's ever been now for this government. And when asked about that, Boris didn't even acknowledge it. He just glossed over it and said, well, I'm doing right by the government and the government believes in me. And you've just heard this massive just, no. Really, order. But no, it was just shocking. I don't know how what's your kind of take on it, knowing that the Prime Minister is just so negligent and doesn't really give a shit how people perceive him anymore, Well,
I think, as you said at the start, there's a whole range of support for him. People who didn't like him liked him then. They stood behind him or stood by him anyway. But I think it's just after the whole Cummings gate, I think you call it, it just kicked every normal person, everyone who supported him, everyone who didn't support him, in the teeth. And it's just made everyone lose a whole lot of respect and trust, to be quite honest.
Absolutely. Hello.
So how can you trust a government that doesn't see its own mistakes and doesn't apologise for them?
It's definitely a thing of not being surprised, at the fact that no one trusts the government anymore, and that's the shameful thing about it, is that especially in times like this where they're opening the country back up, they're allowing people to come over now and be quarantined for 14 days and stuff like that. It's a dangerous move, and the fact that there could be a risk of a second peak already starting to show itself. Are they really doing the right thing? Do they even know what they're doing? It's
just this typical lateness of this government, the lazy approach, it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably tons of people working day and night on this, but it just seems like 5 steps behind every other country. When it comes to this, why didn't we do the quarantine at the start? Why didn't they tell us to wear masks at the start?
Yeah.
Why didn't we have all these things in place at the start?
Yeah, it's kind of
like at least in the first few weeks.
Yeah. Well, I think what was it? And this is just to put out there as well. I'm not bashing anyone behind the scenes. I'm sure there are people who work in their arse off in the government to try and get answers, to do things right. It's just unfortunate that Boris is kind of the front runner for it, and he doesn't really know what he's fucking doing anymore.
Yeah, it's like he was elected on his ability to capture the room and make everyone everyone laugh. Yeah. But now that he's faced with a serious issue,
no, exactly. He comes across as a bit of a tit.
I know, that's not what we need right now.
No. By the way, the just to point this out as well, if anyone is interested, I highly recommend going to watch it. It was the June 3rd talk in the House that they had. And with every question he got, this was another thing Boris did it again. He was making out as if he was being attacked, because he was getting so much crap and stuff like that. Do you feel like Boris is a coward for making that kind of argument, that he's being attacked, or do you think that it's kind of a diversion thing, or
it's definitely a diversion?
Do you think he's defending himself, or do you think he genuinely is taking the coward way out of just not answering questions and being like, whatever?
It shouldn't be a point of him being attacked or something. It's like
camera.
He is the face of the country at the moment, so as a person, he's completely separate from his position. Yeah, so he shouldn't be attacked, or he shouldn't feel like he's being attacked because people are just pointing answers to questions that everyone's asking.
No, absolutely.
So, but it's that kind of his kind of attitude of taking things personally, like not answering certain questions. It's just getting a bit tedious now.
Yeah, I think he definitely isn't taking criticism very well anymore. He's starting to just come across like a bit of a Trump. Sort of just
all you
saying,
need to do is sit down,
you know.
sit down with us, like admit the mistakes that they made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just be honest. For, like,
I'd have much more respect for them if they just turned and went, do you know what, we hold our hands up, we made a lot of silly decisions, a lot of moves we made, we have no idea what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But can you blame us? We're trying to deal with something that's never been dealt with before. You know,
yeah, and a lot of people would have sympathy.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think they're kind of past that point now where they would even be able to do that.
I know, it's just like leaving things too late. It's like never helps. It's like if you do one thing at the time, that's like the cut-off point of you being like sympathised with. But after that, it's just like, oh, now you're doing it for PR and because people have told you to do it.
Absolutely. The last thing that I've got about talking about lockdown stuff and whatnot is the alert level being contradicted by Boris himself. The rules he set up for the stages of between 1 and 5. He was like, once we meet all 5 of these, we can move up a level. That kind of thing. He has now contradicted that because not all those levels are now being met. Like the R has started to rise again. Obviously, as we've discussed, infections are coming back up again. Deaths have started increasing again. But yet he's still insistent that it is fine to keep opening up the UK and continue to push this rebirth of the economy, essentially, which, yes, we need. But I think what we need more importantly is not to have a second wave. Do you think this kind of alert level was rushed and not properly thought about, or do you kind of think that it's maybe just something he's not thinking about clearly right now because he's got so much shit to worry about? And kind of
it just feels like they made up that kind of the Nando's scale, as everyone calls it. Like they just made that up on the fly, and they haven't really referenced it since, maybe once or twice. But I don't know. It just feels like it doesn't even. They've already decided when the economy is going to reopen. Basically, they're sticking to it. They'll make the numbers fit, regardless.
Somehow, yeah.
It just seems like with all this lack of trust, you just know that that's what's going on behind the scenes.
Oh, absolutely.
So things are going to move forward regardless, because the economy is the most important thing for politics. It's not focusing more on the politics than the science. So.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah. I wish we could just listen to the science, but we have to listen to the politics of it.
Yeah, which I sort of agree to it, because the next thing I was going to come to was something that Boris was actually questioning about, moving away from lockdown. There's a lot of stress going on right now with that and stuff, but there's also obviously the riots and everything that have been going on too. Now, I have my own personal feelings about the riots and stuff, which I'll get into in a bit. But Boris actually got asked if he would acknowledge in the House, Black Lives Matter and the movement and everything that's important. And of course, Boris gave the sort of wish-washy answer of, yes, Black Lives Matter, and yes, people should be allowed to protest and whatever. But something interesting that I didn't actually, wasn't aware of, I'm not sure if you are, but a lot of the riot gear that's made for the police in America actually gets distributed from us. We send a lot of that riot gear over. Now, Boris was asked if he would look into how much we're sending over, if as Boris has made a statement on, he doesn't agree with how the riots are being handled in America, the violence the police are bringing. And it was some sarky comment or something like, oh, will the Prime Minister talk to his best friend Trump and sort something out about it? And Boris just completely ignored it. Wouldn't even mention it. Now, I think he's already talked to Trump, and I think he's already said, yeah, sure, we'll keep sending gear or whatever you need, because they're best friends, let's face it. And because we've left the EU, we kind of need a powerhouse like America to sort of help jumpstart our economy and everything once we leave properly. I guess my question is kind of, what's your view on that? Like, how police are being treated in this country, especially as well with the riots and stuff. But the idea that we are supplying the American police and stuff with the batons and the riot gear they need, I guess.
I suppose I would lean You can't really accuse our government of kind of promoting this kind of violence by sending the gear over. It's up to them how they use it, I suppose.
Yeah.
So I'd say this is definitely more of a business decision to get the economy moving again. But yeah, I mean, completely separate topic on the whole Black Lives Matter, I suppose. That whole movement.
I think it kind of got shoehorned in there in the question, to be honest, because Boris never said Black Lives Matter. So they were just trying to get him to say it.
Boris is I think he needs his advisor to tell him what to say.
Yeah.
And anything that comes up that is not been discussed previously, he will have to go back and, ask his best pal.
He's very, very sketchy when he talks. He's very careful with his words now.
Yeah.
In the beginning of this, he was very sort of, I'll say whatever I want, people love me because I compare Brexit to a cabbage. Whereas now he's so choosy with his words and he's so careful about his answers.
Yeah.
You can just tell he's gone from that person that people loved because they felt they could relate
personality,
to just, nope, he's a politician.
A shell.
Yeah, no.
A shell of a man in the Prime Minister's body.
Yeah, mad.
Yeah. But yeah, I suppose if we'll just finish up on lockdown with the making masks compulsory from the 14th of June, apparently. So.
Yeah.
Well, for like out in public anyway. I don't know whether they're making it law or it's just part of the guidance, but I think why now, and why did you think it's too late now, or do you think why make us wait till the 14th of June? Surely any advice given should be now.
I think it just comes back to absolutely to kind of answer one of the points is that this should have been implemented sooner. Masks don't protect you from others; they protect others from you. So essentially, if everyone wore a mask, everyone would be much more, less risk.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely a good idea. Also, the mask thing is not like they don't expect people to wear surgical masks. It's wear something around your face, around your nose and your mouth, just to keep you safe. Whether it's a bandana, whether it's a scarf, whether it's a top, whatever you've got, wear something when you go out so you're protecting others. I think it's mandatory now to wear it on public transport. I think that's a great idea. I think if people because let's face it, people that are squished on those tubes. Regardless, I don't think no matter what happened that was going to happen. So wearing masks, I think, or face coverings or whatever, absolutely essential. I think that on public transport it should be law.
Well, where social distancing isn't possible, definitely.
No, absolutely, yeah. Out and about, going for walks and stuff, I don't know. I think people are not going to listen to it so much because who wants to wear a restricting thing when they're trying to go for a nice relaxing walk or something. I think it just comes down to common sense. Unfortunately, as Boris quite rightly put, and I agree with him, in the House, was that the British public needs to use their common sense with this. There's no other way. If you're not going to use your common sense and kind of wear something on your face when you've got, if you're going out in public, wear something. It's common decency and
it's a duty to protect other people, your family and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And people you quite fond of and you like to meet for longer than 15 minutes, definitely wear that mask.
Definitely. And even though they've said you can go out now and meet friends and you can meet family and stuff, still wear a face covering when you go and meet them. It's just safer that way. Keep your distance and wear a mask. No one's going to listen to it, but people that do will definitely help.
Especially with the weather on the turn, people are definitely going to be encouraged to go indoors.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, not encouraged, but they're going to be tempted by it.
No, I think this second spike, and just I guess to finalise it off, do you think there'll be a second spike? Yes or
no? No.
You don't?
No, not as bad as There might be a raise in the number of cases, but I don't think it'll be as bad as the first one.
I could agree. I definitely think there'll be another spike, but it won't be as vicious or as bad as the first one. Yeah. It's definitely going to push us up even higher,
Yeah, I think we have the benefit of hindsight now. We kind of know what works. Lock everyone down, but I don't know how easy is that going to be.
I think just be sensible, isn't it? It's that thing that comes back down to just use your head. If you're going out, wear something that's going to protect you or your family or your friends.
Yeah, because 4 months ago or 3 months ago, whenever this started, we all had no idea about these concepts of social distancing and protecting other people and hygiene. Like good hygiene.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that'll stick with us for the rest of our life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think people definitely will take hygiene a lot more seriously now compared to what they used to and whatnot. So.
Oh, definitely. And just a bit more of just knowledge of protecting other people. These things spread like wildfire if they're not contained. Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
everyone's got a bit of knowledge now. I know there'll always be idiots, but
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's something that can't be helped. But the more knowledgeable, or the more sensible, I should say, of us, hopefully will stick to these rules and.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people abide by them as well as flout them.
Yeah, I think there's just about as many people who listen to the rules who don't. So
yeah,
just the more people that listen, the easier this is going to be. It's as simple as that.
Definitely. Well, shall we move on to the news?
Let's move on to the news.
No, that's countdown. Okay, so obviously the main event will be protests now worldwide due to the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
Which, to preface that, of course, we're all very supportive of that movement. And yeah, it's a big issue. I think the majority of people, 99% of people, believe in equality.
Absolutely.
And fairness, and we're all well moral.
Yeah, no, doesn't matter your race, your gender, whatever.
But I think the fact is there's always going to be a very small minority of people who are racist, basically.
Yeah.
There's no denying it. There'll always be it. Just like there's people that are murderers, there are people that are bullies. There are people that are abusers. There will always be those people in society. So
yeah, no, regardless.
I think the whole scale of this issue has been raised up massively, which it's understandable. I mean, what happened with George Floyd was despicable, of course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the fact that case did get raised and he is being charged with like second-degree murder now, I believe it is.
Yeah.
Fucking absolutely. He should be thrown in jail for 40 years.
Oh,
simple as.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, so I feel like a lot of it kind of with the rioting and the looting, it's kind of preaching to the good moral people.
Yeah.
When it should really be focused on the abusers and the people who are racists, Yeah. But there will always be those in society, so I don't really know what the answer is.
I think I know this one's tricky. I absolutely think people should have the right to protest, but and I absolutely think this is an important matter that needs to never go away, because there's always going to be racism and whatnot. But how people have been rioting, breaking the law by looting and things like that, how does that help anyone?
Yeah, especially in the middle of a pandemic.
How the hell does that help the movement?
Yeah.
You're making people who support the Black Lives Movement, you're making them look like arseholes. Oh yeah, we can loot this place because we're rioters, we're supporters of this movement. I think, I don't know which celebrity it was, but I saw like a thing while I was watching Philip DeFranco. It was a black guy. He was talking about what's been going on and how he has suffered with racism and stuff going through. I think it was a British athlete, but even he dismissed people breaking into malls and stuff. He's like, that doesn't help our movement. How does violence help? That just makes people not listen.
Yeah.
And I believe there was a YouTuber, let's face it, everyone knows who he is, Jake Paul, that fucker.
Yeah.
He actually got charged with 2 misdemeanors because he was rioting and looting and stuff, trying to film a YouTube video. I think people like that is what makes this movement seem like such a bad thing. I mean, if you look in the UK, I think there's been a couple of areas which have had like bad riots that had to have police intervention and things, but not a lot of places. And then you look in America and Trump was just like, I don't care. Just send the police everywhere. And then he had the audacity to take a Bible, stand outside of a church, and made a propaganda video on it.
He was holding the Bible upside down as well, which offended a lot of people.
Oh God, he is a moron.
Yeah, and they had to enforce the National Guard to clear the area of people so that he could shoot that promotional thing.
Ridiculous. I mean, that guy is just becoming another Putin. Literally, he made it. It was a propaganda video. That's all it was. And then when it was released, it had like lovely music behind it. Oh, he's our saviour. He's such a lovely guy. No, he isn't. He's an orange-faced tangerine that shouldn't be in power. You know? And I think he's just used it as like an excuse to, I'm such a great guy. I know how to look after our country.
I mean, stuff like this would never have happened under Obama's leadership.
Oh, absolutely. No. And don't get me wrong, again, Obama had his issues. But he was not an arsehole. And the thing is, even I would go as far as to say JFK, Nixon, not even they were this bad. This guy is an arse. He just shouldn't be in power. You know, I think.
Well, how he got there would be a mystery to us all.
I think he quoted in the past, "No politician has been treated as badly as him." You wonder why.
Fake news.
That is fake news. There's plenty of fucking politicians that would have been treated worse. JFK. You know, but I mean, I don't know. I can't understand how the people that work under him. Obviously, there's a certain atmosphere to it. I think many people who have been fired and come out and said there's a certain feel to how working for him is. He is just a despicable human, and if do you know why he stopped voting polls to like people to vote in from their homes, like voting ballots and mails and stuff? It is absolutely because he knows he would lose.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it doesn't matter how the vote goes. He is not president again for another 4 years, and if he is, something ain't right there. I am smelling conspiracy. I'm just it'd be full of it.
Well, like you said with the on Twitter when they removed his like his tweets or put a warning label like polling stations are like biased or something. So I think that it also applies to him. Maybe that's why he's saying that.
Oh yeah, no. But the thing is though, the polling fraud in that area is the lowest I think it's been in probably more than many years. Which is what astonishes me about how he seems to think that it's so flawed and it's such a bad system. You know, I don't get it. It's ridiculous, and I
think he's completely adding fuel to the fire of this Black Lives Matter campaign. He's really not helping that situation.
He's a fucking idiot.
If people were saying if he just like sat down with a load of important ministers, like you know, for this whole campaign, like he would gain so much support over it, and he would like kind of simmer the flames a little bit by just meeting with some activists or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Holding his hands up, saying, you know, okay, we hear you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it obviously started with the police brutality thing, and it's kind of evolved into this whole kind of civil rights thing. Like, you know, I must admit, when I first heard the kind of slogan "Black Lives Matter," I thought, hold on a minute, don't all lives matter? But then I kind of realised the error of my ways. You know, I
think the thing is, I'm very much kind of yes, Black lives do matter, absolutely. There is no questioning that. But unfortunately, you know, as much as I agree that like all lives matter, it doesn't matter your race, your gender, your ethnic, whatever. You know, that stuff doesn't matter. No matter what, you're a human being, you matter. I think the Black Lives Matter movement is such an important movement because coloured people and black people are so badly treated. Like, it doesn't matter where you look. Racism is still such a prominent thing in the 21st century, and it's ridiculous. Why? Why is it people look at someone and go, just because of your colour, I don't like you? It just doesn't make sense. Those people are the people who live in Southern America and their sisters. That is just, they are those people.
These are the kind of type of people who won't give a shit about this whole campaign. They'll still be amongst us, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. No, they're not going to give a shit, are they?
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously my concern is will this go down in history as kind of a good milestone in the whole kind of movement? Obviously there've been so many kind of positive ones. For example, Martin Luther King and his whole peaceful protests and his speeches, and Jesse Owens winning the Berlin 1936 Olympics in front of Hitler himself. Not winning, but gold medals. Obviously Obama as being a president. I mean, that must show at some level of, you know, equality in the world.
Oh, and he won it twice. He ran for 8 years. You know.
I almost felt like a turning point. Like, oh, thank God, this is behind us now.
Oh, I know. I think it's such a shame that it will always be a natural part of just stupid people, and ignorant people as well. But I don't know. I think unfortunately there's a man in power who just has a certain agenda and
It's
fuels
ego.
him, and I think unfortunately he just makes it look, he makes people look bad. He's very selfish. He doesn't care,
No.
and unfortunately I think he has kind of made the situation with especially racism worse.
Yeah.
Just from how he's acted, how he's said things, how he's portrayed things. It is what it is, and I don't think it'll ever change. I hope the next person who takes over after him can sort of not fix some of it. I mean, it's impossible to fix, but sort of have more control over it. Understanding of it.
Joe Biden or something, is he running against him?
Yeah. I mean, I don't like
I'm
Joe
sure
Biden. I don't like him, but he is a surefire better than Trump. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trump is just a fucking tangerine.
Is it like a requirement to be in your 70s or 80s to be president?
Obama went. Christ, by the end of his run, he looked like a fucking retired elderly man. He was like done. His hair was grey, he was stressed, he was visibly upset every time he did a speech. That man was a broken human by the end of it.
Yeah, the same with all our prime ministers. They all look like they aged 10 years.
Except for Boris. Boris looks like he's getting fucking younger. I get it.
Apart from when he put a video on when he had coronavirus himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Still
the only time he looked older,
But yeah, just quickly, I suppose the whole other aspect of this is the whole social media campaign that's kind of run alongside this, and the virtue signaling amongst different companies to try and do something so that they are seen to be supporting.
Seen, not heard.
Seen to be supporting, whereas like are their intentions to be supportive? Like if you want to do that, make a difference, increase pay, donate to charity. Is having a blackout and turning your servers up for 2 hours a good response? Something like this.
I get it because it's one of those big moves, isn't it, for a company to go, do you know what, we're not going to earn any money for a set amount of time simply because we're going to turn the servers off because we support this movement. That is a noble thing. However, why not, instead of doing that, take a large sum of money and donate it to a charity that works to protect these people, to help people who are suffering with racism and things like that, and support a community that is trying to make Black lives better and matter more. That would be a bigger impact to me rather than, oh, you turned your servers off.
Yeah.
Do you know you earn billions from that every week? It's not really
the whole,
that impressive.
People all over social media changing their profile pictures to being black for one day. One day, that's all that matters.
I think for a everyday person to change their stuff to black, I get it, because obviously we're limited as to what we can do. We can't exactly make an impact on the world massively if we don't have much money or things like that. I absolutely think that fair enough if you want to support it for a day. Go ahead, you're not hurting anyone, whatever, I hate social media personally, so hey, more people that don't use it, better. But for a big company to do it, it just comes across as a bit fake, I guess.
So tokenistic.
Yeah, it comes across like, oh look, we're so good, we've done this, and it's like, well, couldn't you do a little bit more, I don't know. Maybe that's
it's
an
kind of
ignorant
scraping
viewpoint.
the barrel of things to do, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe that's a very ignorant viewpoint. I'm not sure. I'd love
maybe that's our white privilege.
But I would love to be educated on it a bit more. Maybe understand why they couldn't put a bit of money towards a charity or a campaign or something to help instead of turning off their servers. Maybe there's some logistical stuff behind it why they can't do it. I don't know. Maybe it is an ignorant answer on my part. But from where I'm standing or sitting, doesn't exactly look like that turning your servers off for an ITA EA Rockstar is going to do a lot. Rockstar could definitely have done more. Same for any big company, really. I think
it's just
big YouTubers were like, oh, I think Jeffree Star was one. Oh, I've stopped my delivery service for today, so no one's going to get their shit that they've paid for because it's just, I don't know, it just comes across very ignorant to me.
It just seems like they have to be seen to do something in order to not be branded as like non-politically correct or something.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, if you're gonna do something like that, mean it,
Yeah, no, and absolutely. If you are stopping stuff, if you are social media influencer, like, or a YouTuber, and they go, I'm not uploading today because Black Lives Matter movement and stuff, fine, that is perfectly acceptable. Don't just say it though. Show evidence, do something more than just not upload. It's not exactly hard to just not upload.
I know.
Do a bit more. Again, I don't know if that's an ignorant viewpoint or maybe a politically wrong thing to say,
so.
But that's my view on it. That is my take. I think people could do more.
Yeah, I guess it's just the end of the day. If we're not black, so we don't know what it's like, basically, to have racism against us.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. No, I as a white man that has grown up in the UK, no, I've never experienced racism towards myself. No. I've been friends with everyone, regardless of race, gender, whatever. I don't care. But I have
obviously
witnessed
black
racism.
People aren't the only people who have racism
absolutely.
against them, but
this is the big movement going on right now.
Yeah. Someone described it as, there's many houses in peril, but this one needs our help right now. So.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there will never be a point where it's like, it's all behind us now, it's fine.
No, it'll always be there, absolutely.
It will always be there. So if this rioting and looting and violence carries on, then it's like not good. Like all police officers who are brutal and violent need to go straight away.
Again,
definitely.
It was like 18 complaints on that one guy who actually caused the death, and then 11 counts on his partner. Like, why so many? Just fucking get rid of them.
Did you see that video of the old guy getting pushed over?
I didn't know.
Absolutely. Oh god, you could hear the crack of his head on the floor, on the pavement. He was like 70 years old, and like a big group of police officers just went past and didn't even care about him.
Nice.
The assumption, their story was that he tripped, but I mean, you can see the video evidence that he was pushed, basically. Yeah. And the guy responsible was fired, and then all the rest of his squad resigned as protest against him being fired.
Fuck him. They're not going to be missed. I think that's the biggest problem. I think
it's the attitude of the police.
Well, police should have, and I've said this ever since I've been a carer, or when I was a carer. I've said this since then. Whether you're a firefighter, a police officer, a paramedic, a doctor, a carer, whatever, you have to have the same mindset, and that mindset is, I care about people. I'm doing this because I want to help people, not because you want power, not because you want control. Help people. And unfortunately, a lot of people become police officers, notice how much control and power they have, and get lost in it, and they start acting like they own the world or whatever, and there's no consequence for them, and this is what happens.
People get outraged.
It's utter crap. Hello Kitty.
So hopefully things will be put in place to sort that out. We can make a difference one small step at a time.
Do a psychology test on all of them.
I know. Make sure they have some kind of moral compass.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I suppose that's all we can really say on that.
It's difficult to like right now. It's still going on. I highly recommend anyone that is watching or listening, go and do the research on this stuff. There is so much to it, so many different incidents that are going on right now. Go off and make your own opinion of it as well, because there's way too much information. Like we do with, as silly as it is to compare this serious thing to our conspiracy theories we talk about, it's the same thing. Go and do your research, learn about it yourself as well. It's important to be educated. You don't have to know everything, but be educated on it at least to some extent.
Yeah. Because that's where like a lot of racism or prejudgments come from. It's like people not doing the research.
Exactly.
People taking that first judgment and just rolling with it rather than, I mean, like I did when I saw Black Lives Matter. I thought, hang on a minute, but then like it took it not to mean only Black Lives Matter,
Yeah.
But do your research, definitely. It helps.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we'll draw a line under that for now.
Yes.
Probably return to it next week.
We'll probably end up coming back to it because it's an ongoing thing. But good to have a chat about it.
Okay, so the next news article that came out this week.
Okay, go on.
Madeleine McCann. Right, there has been a new suspect. He's called Christian Bruckner, a German guy, 43 years old now. Mm-hmm. He apparently has a history of rape, child abuse, robberies. He was a suspect in the beginning. He was ruled out by Portuguese police, though.
Okay.
and he's apparently been on the radar ever since. But now I believe there was like he confessed to one of his friends that he had something to do with it, and he was also involved in another case, like involved raping a 70-year-old woman or something.
Oh, that's a jump in age.
I know.
I shouldn't make jokes about it, but Jesus.
Like in the same area.
But
so yeah, that's apparently the development in that. So everyone is kind of pointing towards this guy that's actually taken her, and then the German authorities believe she's actually dead. So.
Well, who gave them that fucking idea? It's only been how many years?
So the German case is a murder investigation, whereas the English case is a missing person investigation. So.
Yeah.
Interesting one.
Well, this is the first I've heard of this. I personally have said since the beginning, stay there, Peachy. I've said this since the beginning. I think it's the parents. That's just my personal opinion from everything that happened. I don't think they did it on purpose. I don't think it was an intentional murder. I think she was ill. I think something must have happened, and she just passed away when they went out. But instead of just owning up to it, they didn't. They tried to hide it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If there is enough evidence against this guy, absolutely something needs to be done if he is the person who has done this. But I'm just to ask, is the only evidence that he supposedly did it was him admitting it to a friend, a trusted person?
Well, apparently he was in the area at the time. He received a phone call for like half an hour before the abduction happened, and he owned like a house in the area, and he had a camper van in the area apparently.
So a lot of stuff to put him in the area.
Yeah, and he did this confession rather recently. He confessed to 2 crimes. One of them has been confirmed that he did do it. So
which was
the other one is this
the elderly lady one, I'm assuming.
Yeah, which he's going to be serving time for.
Good.
In prison.
Absolutely.
But see, he looks like an absolute creep as well.
But see, the problem is because criminals have this weird fucking mindset of like they will just admit to something because they want it on their rap sheet, kind of like a badge of honor that they did this. I would rather them do more investigating and find out more evidence to prove that he had actually done this than just going, he admitted to it and he owns these things in the area. He was in the area at the time. Fuck it, we'll just put it on him. Like, no.
Yeah, it's like they haven't openly said it was him who did it, but like
a lot of evidence points his way.
He's on the front page of every single newspaper right now. Like, they're pretty much guilt trial by media.
This is exactly why he probably admitted to it. If he hasn't done it, if he has done it, absolutely he should be suffering the consequences for it. But if he hasn't done it, he's now got what he wants. He's getting all this press and his face is everywhere, his name is everywhere, because he wants to be recognised as this famous Madeleine McCann abductor and killer. Like, it's disgusting, but it is what criminals do, and this is why it's so important that they really, really look into this. And if he is the one who did it, absolutely slap him with it and put him in jail. But if he hasn't, he cannot be charged with it just because they want to find an answer to it. That's not how it works. And
like, it's interesting how it all comes out now when there's all these interesting movements in the news and the politics. Like, I don't know. Another conspiracy theory, maybe a bit of a distraction.
Seems a little bit convenient to me.
Yeah, personally. Like, why now?
Because if that was the case, why is it taking them so long? Like this, if this guy was in the area, he'd also committed a crime in the area. He owned a number of houses, and he was a suspect in the beginning. But he's been on their radar. Something don't add up.
And the thing is, like, he's been accused of all these kind of things, but murder isn't one of them, though. So
this is another thing as well. But Madeleine McCann's not alive. I'm sorry to burst anyone's bubble. She's not. Yes, for a little while, maybe. But I mean, it's such a confusing case, which is why it's unsolved. There's no evidence left in the actual thing. There was barely any evidence to suggest she was abducted because no one had broke in. There was no forced entry, nothing. So if someone did abduct her, they let themselves in cleanly, which is why it doesn't make sense that she was abducted. There's a lot of things against the McCanns that just don't add up, which is I have my opinions, fair enough, but I hope that if this guy did it, he is reprimanded. But if he didn't do it, I hope they finalise that and move on from it,
Yeah. I mean, I don't think the McCanns did it, in my opinion, but So I probably
That's fair.
more believe this abduction theory.
Yeah.
That's what the narrative is, isn't it?
Yeah. I think everything's a theory until there's solid evidence. Isn't
I know,
it?
that's just the thing. Of all these cases, there's just no evidence.
The people, like, my view of the McCanns doing it isn't like an intentional thing. It isn't like a malicious thing. It was a complete accident. They didn't do it on purpose. I know there's people out there that think they did it on purpose, that they're evil bastards or whatever. No. I do think they're evil in the fact that they've made money off it. Sick bastards wrote books, fucking had merchandise. Like, that is disgusting. That is despicable. Your kid is missing, presumed dead, and you're like, let's write a book. Like, those two are disgusting, despicable parents that should not be. They should be castrated. But I genuinely don't know what's happened to Madeline. Like, I don't think anyone does, and I think that's why hearing there's a new suspect is kind of annoying to me. Because they're just like, oh, he could have done it, and then the media have gone, oh, new suspect. It's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Let's focus on something else.
Yeah, exactly. It's like trying to find a different news because of the same thing every week.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like, I suppose the parents have been through a lot of pain. Have been trolled and hounded by the media. This has gone on for so many years now. Yeah. So I do kind of sympathise with them a little bit, but. Yeah, they should be writing books about this stuff and going on world tours and that.
I personally don't feel sorry for them because of what they did after it, the books and stuff. If they hadn't done any of that, I would still have some sympathy, even if I had my suspicions they did it. But the fact that, how many books is it? 3? 2 or 3 books?
Yeah, I think so.
And that's just the books. That's not including tours, meet and greets, which is weird, press conferences, the number of press conferences. Like, even years after they had the case reopened.
And the amount of money that's gone into this, like, one case. Like, it's like, nuts. They say it's 11 million, but apparently it's like hell of a lot more.
Oh, it'd be a lot more. A lot. This case is now how old? Or when did this start? Like
13 years, is it?
Yeah, over a decade. That's not 11 million. That's hundreds of millions. Like, it's a lot of money. And I get it.
Hundreds more kids go missing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think every child or any person that goes missing should have the full attention, as much money that it needs thrown at it, throw it at it. But yeah, no. I think this one's a pretty clear cut to me. But hopefully, whatever the truth is, it comes out soon, and they can have some closure, or we find out who did it.
Yeah, it's like because like a middle class white family having the child abducted was like. Just like such a sweeping story at the time. Like, would it have the same intention if it was like a little black girl? Or
exactly. Yeah. There's a lot of questions as well that come with it again, but I think that would be its own fucking podcast alone. With the amount of information. So I won't.
So yeah. Well, long story short, I don't think it would have the same amount of attention. But yeah.
Any more news?
I haven't got any more news. Well, there probably has been more news, but I haven't wrote anything more else down for that. Yeah. I don't know. I think there are 2 very big topics.
Big topics?
Yeah, the 2 we've just covered.
Yeah, they were huge ones.
So we'll save a little bit for next week.
Important. I definitely think they're important to acknowledge and talk about. Absolutely. But definitely big topics, yeah.
It's the kind of thing that if you say the wrong thing, you'll be hounded on.
Shit. I don't care what people think, man. I think everyone has the right to their own opinion. I think it's just be respectful with that opinion.
Yeah.
And just, I'm more than open to debate with people. Like me and you, we don't see eye to eye on everything. And we have wonderful conversations that last a long time. And I think that's
why
the
it's
best
more
way to be.
interesting.
And it's nice because then you get a different point. I love hearing your points of view because sometimes it does make me rethink what I think about something. So it is important, but just, I guarantee if this podcast was bigger, there'd be some dickhead in the comments just, you're an asshole for thinking that, and you're a dick for not accepting it.
That's why part of me is glad that we're not huge.
Yeah, never want to be there. Never.
I don't think we will be with these comments.
YouTube's not going to promote this shit. We've talked about rape. Like that's the thing. You've said that word, so it's just like it's gone.
It's in the news, for God's sake.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll move on to games then.
Gaming. Okay, so do you want to? Have you got anything gaming related you want to talk about?
Well, the ones I've been playing, I haven't really. I suppose we've covered a lot of games in the previous ones that are coming out like the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So now I've just been kind of working on a backlog of things I've been playing. I've played a bit of Fallout 76. I actually finished the Wastelanders campaign.
Ooh, without spoiling anything, what's it like?
It is pretty good, to be honest. I hadn't actually finished the normal campaign before I started the Wastelanders, so I've kind of been doing a bit of both of those. But I've really enjoyed it. The acting is good. It's made me laugh. Just the dialogue is just good. Some of the story is like quite interesting. It's like goes into the lore of it and stuff. It's like this is a proper Fallout game now. But yeah, I was impressed.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'm looking forward to playing a bit more of that eventually.
Yeah, well, I can play with you and pretend I don't know what's going on. Well, I suppose there is that kind of multiple choice aspect of it, so it can go
either way.
Different ways. Like I chose one way, you might not choose the same one.
Yeah, we have different ways of playing.
It keeps it spicy.
Keeps it spicy, yes.
Yeah, you can feel free to chip in if something you've got.
I've got quite a lot of game suggestions.
I saw some of your notes.
Serious Sam games, I highly recommend. One of the first FPSs to come out just after Doom and Duke Nukem. Highly recommend people go and check those old games out. They're brilliant. Judge Dredd versus Death, an old FPS shooter. I've played through that again for like the 100th time. It's really short, really quick. You can finish it in like 3 hours, but it's a good laugh. Doesn't take itself too seriously. It's always a fun one.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk a little bit about The Last of Us 2, because obviously this comes out in 2 weeks. I was just I know we briefly touched on this before, but are you still excited for it? Because I know a lot of obviously controversial stuff happened with it. With leaks and things like that, I've still, thank God, managed to avoid everything.
Yeah. Well, like you, I've avoided all the leaks, and I've tried to avoid a lot of the recent trailers that have come out. I haven't watched anything basically other than like a very brief one a long time ago. But yeah, I'm definitely excited. I know I just know it's going to be so good.
No, absolutely.
Little screenshots I've seen. It's just looks awesome. If they can raise the bar from Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy and stuff, and the first one, Naughty Dog can really pull out of the bag.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Okay, the next thing was Dying Light 2.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of news and some updates. Obviously, this year the game got cancelled again. It was meant to be coming out in spring of this year, but that got changed to now the game has been delayed indefinitely, but not cancelled. They have said the CEO Paul Mark Chewbacca has said, quote, "We were initially aiming for a spring 2020 release with Dying Light 2, but unfortunately we need more development time to fulfill our vision. We will have more details to share in the coming months, and we'll get back to you as soon as we have more information. We apologise for this unwelcome news. Our priority is to deliver an experience that lives up to our own high standards and expectations of our fans." End quote. A lot of stuff that came out about this game, obviously Dying Light 2, the map is a lot smaller, but there's a hell of a lot more stuff to do. The actual choices you have will have a huge impact in the world, apparently, and how the story goes. It's 15 years after the first game. Graphically, it is not just a step up, but it is about 20 step ups, I think that's been described as. Essentially, the entire game has been praised as a godlike game.
Yeah, I saw the E3 gameplay trailer. It's incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah, it looks like nothing that we've ever seen. This looks like something absolutely incredible, and I hope they can keep to the standards that they have, especially for this game. I mean, I think it's New Techland that do these games, and Christ, the first one was bloody brilliant. I think the only thing I didn't like was the trial thing or the survival thing or something. I can't remember what it was properly because it's been so long, but definitely a game to go and play if you haven't during this time.
Oh yeah, strongly recommended. The first one was so good; it still holds up today.
Oh, absolutely! That game,
graphically and gameplay wise,
a masterpiece. I mean, I've been playing it on PC since I've obviously been away from my consoles, but it absolutely is outstanding game regardless of platform. It blows you out of the water every fucking time.
One of my favourite things about it was the parkour system aspect.
Yeah, no,
it felt so different.
It was simple but so
smooth.
Effective. Yeah, seamless, much better than like Mirror's Edge and things like that. That had tried it before.
And it seemed like the second one kind of had loads of improvements tenfold on that. Definitely. You could just interact with everything,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So
the thing I was going to actually ask was theories on the gameplay and the story. What are you what are your guesses on what you think the game is going to be? I know we've had like little drops here and there. We know who the main character is. We kind of know his motivations and stuff. But I've kind of avoided everything if massively possible. But
so basically how the first one ended was Joel basically lying to Ellie about him kind of putting her above the health of everyone, so he saved her when she could have helped develop a vaccine for this kind of thing. So that's going to cause some... She's obviously going to find out in this one. That's going to cause a bit of a dynamic between Joel and Ellie, but I'd imagine she'd forgive him. Because, love conquers all. So it's going to cause some tension between the two. I believe... I don't really want to go into too much because...
without spoiling anything.
It seems like she gets a girlfriend.
Yeah, well, we already knew that she was into women anyway, didn't we, from the DLC?
Yeah.
Big question, we'll leave Last of Us 2 on. Are they going to kill Joel? Do you think they'll kill him? Or do you reckon they'll let him live?
I think it might be a bit too obvious to kill him.
I reckon.
Maybe they'll kill Ellie.
I reckon they'll kill him, but they'll do it in a way
He's already looking pretty old right now.
Yeah. Something tells me he's going to die, but it's not going to be kind of just like, oh, he was shot and killed, or oh, he got bitten and he died. Like, it's going to be either extremely graphic and gruesome, or really unexpected and out of nowhere.
I reckon they'll do kind of a time leap at the end where he just kind of dies naturally. And then Ellie kind of lives on to lead this world.
Yeah, or it'll be a similar situation as to how maybe it'll be like when Joel does die, it'll be a similar situation to how his daughter died maybe, and then Ellie will be the one trying to save him.
Yeah, that could be a good one.
That would be, boom, straight in the heart.
Or a kind of parallel with how the first one ended, with him saving her, but for like the wrong reasons. I mean, I'm excited about how they're going to do it, but
yeah,
God knows. I'm sure they've got plenty of tricks up the sleeves. I mean, if we could guess what happens, it probably wouldn't be a good game because they're going to surprise us.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Yes, very excited though.
Definitely. Okay.
Put the blur on.
Oh yeah, because I forgot to put it on earlier. It was just in case people walk behind, so that way then it's fair. Their faces aren't being shown or anything. But yeah, no. All right, that's all the gaming stuff. I think briefly mention Dying Light 2.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's much really to talk about now. I would like to know the stories and kind of stuff like that, but I don't. At the same time, I don't want to spoil it for myself. So. But
it's been delayed indefinitely. We'll talk about that when it's not delayed indefinitely.
Yeah.
No point getting our hypes up for nothing.
Yeah.
I was going to say there hasn't been much talk about PS Plus when it comes to PS5. Like, do you think that will continue on?
Yeah.
Pay to play online?
Yeah, undoubtedly. Unfortunately, it's one of their biggest money makers. They're not going to get rid of it. I wish they would, because it used to be free.
I know.
I think a month after it wasn't free, I got a PS4. So
yeah, it used to be an optional service.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you just got some extras, but now it's kind of you have to do it if you want to play online.
If you want to play with friends and things like that, yeah, you have to, and it's a bullshit.
Yeah.
But
I imagine that how much good PR if they said, oh, everyone can play online for free.
Oh, can you imagine? That would be it. Xbox wouldn't even get a look in.
I know, but
I'm actually excited for both, though. I can't deny that I am excited for both consoles. And now that I have paid my Argos card off, I have nothing to pay off. I am now saving loads of money. Hopefully, I'll be able to get one or both and try and let you know how they are. But
that is quite a leap.
We'll see.
Uh,
We'll see what happens with that. But yeah.
So yeah, I think they will be continuing with this paid plan because they'd be shooting themselves in the foot otherwise. That's
a lot of
an
revenue.
income. That's how they support their service these days. Apparently, even though it used to be free, used to go up to just console sales alone.
Yeah, games used to not have microtransactions. Where did those days go? Yeah.
I know. Now it's all for we got to pay for our live service.
Oh, that's fucking stupid. But it is what it is.
Which you then have to keep on paying for.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, that's going to continue, no doubt, and especially because they're selling PlayStation Plus in like a sale right now.
Yeah.
So you can keep on stacking it on top of each other. Imagine how annoyed you'd be if you just paid for 5 years.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, and then people would be pissed off if it was like, no, it's free.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Oh. All right.
Onto movies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I haven't really got that many, but I watched the original Addams Family and the new animated film recently. They were really good.
Nice.
I finally sat down and watched them. Mrs. Doubtfire, another one I finally sat down and watched. Love that.
Robin Williams, so good.
Love Robin Williams. Just anything he's in, he just lights it up.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, what else? Anything else? And Ink Master, basically just loads of Ink Master, loads of tattoo stuff.
All right. You're not into tattoos, are you?
No. No.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's all. I really haven't watched a lot, to be honest. Surprisingly.
I've just been sticking with Amazon, this Amazon Prime things. I watched My Spy.
Oh yeah, because I was interested in that. It's got Dave Bautista, right?
Dave Bautista, yeah. It's interesting watching him not in like the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm not sure what other films he's been in, but he's good. He's pretty good in it, and the relationship between him and the little girl is like it's funny. It works.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give it a massive raving review, but it's good.
It's an enjoyable one.
That's pretty much the only film I watched this week. As far as TV goes, I finished off Dead to Me second season. That is very good. That's very good. I recommend anyone watching that if you want a bit of mystery and drama and hilarity as well. I started watching Alex Rider on Amazon.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
That it's interesting. I remember watching the films and reading the books as a kid.
Yeah.
And I was interested in that kind of spy kind of thing. But it's all right. It's all right. I'm waiting for some more, interesting stuff to happen in it. About 4 episodes in, but it's pretty good so far. My trial runs out in 2 days, so I've got like a day to watch 5 episodes.
Oh damn! This is why I just pay for it. But yeah, I shouldn't because I pay for too much shit. I'd save a fortune. But there we are.
You're doing it the wrong way.
Doing it the wrong way when it comes to money, but yeah. Oh,
right.
Everything
I think we go.
That.
That's it for films and TVs.
Okay, so for those people who don't like talking about conspiracy theories, bye.
All right.
Welcome to the tinfoil hat moment. So yeah, today the conspiracy theory we are going to be talking about is the chemtrail conspiracy theory. Now, is there anything you actually know or knew about this sort of theory before?
Honest answer is no. First I've heard of it was when you sent me a message this morning.
Okay, cool. I personally heard little bits and bobs here and there.
My initial thoughts on it is like...
Yeah, I was going to say, what's kind of your initial thoughts?
Really not buying this one, to be honest.
Well, there's multiple choice at the end. Multiple kind of answers that have been discussed. And actually, I think for the first time in all the conspiracy theories we've talked about, there's actually one that has been proven to be right. There's actual evidence. But whether this is actually what they're doing with these trails or whatever, lo and behold, we don't know. Yeah. So, But yeah, okay, so just a quick brief rundown of anyone that doesn't know what it is. The chemtrail conspiracy theory poise the erroneous belief that the long-lasting consideration trails, or concentration trails...
Condensation, that is.
That is condensation trails. I can't read English. Are chemtrails consisting of chemical or biological agents left in the sky by high-flying aircraft, sprayed for nefarious purposes undisclosed to the general public. Believers in this theory say that while normal contrails
dissipate relatively quickly.
Thank you. Contrails that linger must contain additional substances. Those who subscribe to the theory speculate that the purpose of the chemical release may be solar radiation management, weather modification, psychological manipulation, human population control, or bio or chemical warfare. So essentially, they're the trails that are left behind planes.
It's just kind of like pollution, though, isn't it?
Well, one of the things from it was that essentially it's where the air going over like the wings and stuff of planes and things like that, because of the sudden change in pressure, that's why these trails appear from the back of the engines, because the heat goes into the cold air and it just causes this trail of just sort of
condensation trail.
Essentially, yeah. So a little bit of history about it. The chemtrail conspiracy theories began to circulate after the United States Air Force published a 1996 report about weather modification. Following the report in the late 1990s, the USAF was accused of spraying the US population with mysterious substances from aircraft, generalizing unusual contrail patterns. So because patterns in the sky looked a bit off, they didn't look kind of like the normal kind of plane things, they suspected that the government was kind of just dropping these weird chemicals on people back in the 1990s to kind of change their mindsets, or especially around that time. I'm not 100% sure, but I do believe that the government were kind of, not exactly looked upon fondly, should we say, because of a lot of incidents that had happened. So that's kind of that. I'm not going to read through all of these things, by the way, guys. The link, as always, will be down below if you want to go and read the actual page on Wikipedia of this stuff, because there is a lot. But this one is one of the smallest ones I could find, as we only got this one today.
We had a lot of news to talk about today. So.
Yeah, not just that, but I was massively behind, so again, that's my fault. So yeah, Ed, there's plenty more history you can go back over. Again, feel free to. But I don't really need any of that, the rest of it. So there's a lot of other stuff as well in descriptions. So there's kind of interpretation of evidence, beliefs, actions, the contrails and stuff, the history behind it. Essentially, there's a lot of things that go into this. There's a lot of history behind this stuff. There's some truth. Like, for instance, there was evidence, and the government admitted to this, that in the United States they did actually use these contrails to try and manipulate the weather, to kind of try and gauge a fact of how much rainfall could they create, could they make it hotter or colder or whatever. They did try to do this for a little bit of time. There was a bit of weather modification going on. It's the act of they basically tried to manipulate it so they could do whatever they wanted with it. It was called cloud seeding at the time. By the way, there's multiple references I'll put underneath this because there is a factor. But yeah, so that's essentially the long story short of it. People think the government possibly were shooting chemicals into the sky to sort of manipulate human beings and people and things like that. Essentially, that is what this theory is. They think the government have been putting things in the sky to control people and manipulate them and mind control them and stuff. So let's get into some of the theories, shall we? We've got 2, 3, 4, 4, actually 5 technically. So the first one we're going to talk about is solar radiation management. So SRM proposals are a type of climate engineering which would seek to reflect sunlight and reduce global warming. So essentially they think people have been shooting these things into the sky, or the government have been doing this to try and combat global warming. What's kind of your thought on that? Again, highly recommend people go and check these theories out themselves as well, because there is a lot to these theories. That isn't all of it. There is a lot more to it.
If they're using like these airplanes to try and combat global warming, it's like kind of a massive contradiction, because it's kind of the greenhouse gases and emissions that they're pumping out with these airplanes are kind of contributing to it anyway, the emissions. So I'm not really buying that one because it seems like they're contradicting themselves.
Yeah. It's just a little bit more information on it, and then I'll shoot to the next one. Solar radiation management projects could serve as a temporary response while levels of greenhouse gases can be brought under control by mitigation and greenhouse gas removal techniques. They would not reduce greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere and thus do not address problems such as ocean acidification and caused by excess carbon dioxide. So essentially, it would literally just get rid of the sunlight. That's it. So the second one. The second theory is weather modification. So people obviously think, as I brought up very briefly earlier, that the government are doing these sort of things to control the weather, whether it's to bring more sunlight, whether it's to make it rain more, windy, tornadoes, whatever, things like that. Just as a little bit of an example, the most common form of weather modification is cloud seeding, which increases rain or snow, usually for the purpose of increasing the local water supply. Weather modification can also have the goal of preventing damaging weather, such as hail or hurricanes, from occurring, or of provoking damaging weather against the enemy, as a tactic of military or economic warfare, like Operation Popeye, which was a military cloud seeding operation carried out by the US. This was back in Vietnam War in 1967 and 1972. So this actually has evidence behind it. This has been used in the past. It was actually used for a warfare technique, and it was quite successful. It didn't do a lot of damage, but it did change the weather. They did make it rain more. So
it seems like a lot of effort that goes into it just to kind of make it rain a bit more on the enemy.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Like how confident were they in their science that this would like have an effect on it? You know? It feels like they could have spent more time on different resources for the Vietnam War rather than changing the weather.
Yeah.
But I mean, if they tried it and it was apparently effective, then that's interesting to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
it just reminds me of Geostorm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, Geostorm, I think, did actually take some of the historical evidence from these actual things to try and show kind of how they could possibly manipulate the weather in the future and stuff. So as weird as that may seem, but no, absolutely. But that is the only theory here that actually has a credence of truth and evidence, because it has been used. Again, Wikipedia page down below. Also, I'm going to try and find, there's an article that was written about the weather modification stuff. It's fascinating. I'll see if I can find it later. The third one is psychological manipulation. So it's a type of social influence, for those of you who didn't know, that aims to change the behaviour of perception of others, thought indirect, deceptive, or underhanded tactics. It's not necessarily a negative. For example, people such as friends, family, and doctors can try to persuade to change clearly unhelpful habits and behaviours. So essentially the motivations behind this being used would be to encourage people to be kinder, more friendly, not think so badly of the government, vote a certain person in constantly, someone who has no political edge or party or power gets into power. Come to think of it, weren't there a lot more clouds in the sky before Trump was elected?
Oh my God.
So yeah, that's essentially what that one is. I don't know kind of what your thought is behind that.
I think they released a lot of this during the 80s because it probably released a load of pheromones to make everyone's hair massive and make them all like have sex more and listen to that music. Maybe that was a massive experiment in the 80s. So, but yeah, it's interesting, like dropping a load of like chemicals to change people's behaviour. That would be something to like nominate Trump in, as you'd say.
That was just a joke, just to point that out. Don't sue me.
I'm taking this seriously.
But yeah, no, as an actual thing, that do you reckon that could be a possibility that has been used by government in the past, maybe to calm riots or? Maybe political things that happened and the population didn't agree. Maybe they tried to do it to manipulate people. Do you think?
I bet it was probably discussed, but I don't know in practicality whether it would work with like how would they drop it on everyone, or just over certain states that aren't supportive of them. Oh, let's just do a flyby. But yeah, I think it'd be hard to pull off.
Yeah. The next one is they did it for the human population planning. So, for instance, population control. The idea is that they would drop toxic gas over the entire kind of area, and whoever died from it, died from it. Essentially, that is the theory. They think these clouds are basically filled with toxic gases and things that are basically lower life expectations, so they can keep the population under control. Any thoughts?
Just like pollution in general, giving people respiratory problems. Areas of high pollution will generally have a decline in health in that area.
Yeah.
Aeroplanes in general will just add to it anyway. So I'm not sure how they can just like increase that. But yeah, so it's a bit of a failure to try and do something like that when pollution in general will do that anyway.
Yeah. And the fifth and final thing is they're clouds, mate. Chill. That's it. That's my theory. They're clouds, bruh. All the ideas.
Is that your theory?
No, I actually, I don't know. If I was to believe one of the other four, I would absolutely say that the likelihood is it's weather modification. I mean, for psychological manipulation, personally, in my opinion, that's ridiculous. Otherwise, they would have used it a lot sooner. And why are there still so many wars? If a government had this power, wouldn't they just drop it over another country they don't get along with?
Yeah.
As for human population, it's getting larger. So I don't think they've done that. And as for solar radiation management, like basically trying to block more sun rays and sunlight getting through to try and lower the heat of the planet, I absolutely think that's a great idea. I think if a government could figure out how to do it properly and it worked, fantastic, do it. Because the planet is heating up, obviously, but I don't think it's something that's happened right now. So out of the four,
that sounds very American, that like blocking sunlight so the Earth doesn't get hotter.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it still gets hot anyway.
Yeah,
it's not just to do with the sun hitting the Earth.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah,
I absolutely.
It's plus, like something Trump would advocate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Trump's in power. He doesn't believe in global warming, doesn't he? He's a fucking
idiot.
But yeah, no. If I had to choose one of the four personally, I would say that I think it's more kind of weather controlling things. They're trying to learn how, if they can sort of make it rain a bit more to help water supply, because it's been proven to have been used in the past as well. So if these things are a thing, I don't think it's a dangerous thing. I think they're just trying to do it to try and help the world. Personally, my actual opinion, they're clouds.
Yeah, that's my opinion too. I think Mother Nature is kind of a difficult beast to handle. You can't really control the weather in any kind of significant way. Maybe make it rain more or something. But, I don't think they're going to be causing storms anytime soon. The most interesting one is probably the psychological manipulation of people. Like, it's just the idea of them dropping pheromones from the sky and making everyone horny as hell. That just makes me laugh.
It sounds like an actual. It sounds like a really shit plot to a B movie.
That'd just be hilarious.
Hornado.
But yeah.
Instead of Sharknado, Hornado. Everyone that gets sucked up into this tornado is massively horny.
You don't get sucked into the tornado, you get sucked out of it.
Yeah, you get sucked when you end up in the tornado.
But yeah, I don't really have any beliefs other than it's like it's put general pollution and they're clouds, mate.
Yeah, they're clouds. I'm sorry. I did do a bit of research into this one as much as I could this morning. I spent a good 2-3 hours on it. I wish I could have spent more, but I'll be honest, I've been busy this week. But I find it a fascinating thing. I absolutely think they could be trying to maybe possibly use the weather. But other than that, I can't really see any of those other options being a viable choice as to what they're doing. It's just a pressure change after the wings. That's all it is. It's just a pressure change, and I think people kind of want to find something in nothing, I think, when it comes to this.
Yeah, it's kind of different if it's used in like warfare as like a tactic and just general aircraft you see above you.
Yeah, well, I think the only time it's been recorded as proven to be used was back in the Vietnam War. They did do a small experiment back in that time as well over a public domain, I believe, and it didn't turn into rain. It turned into like giant hailstorms that broke cars, killed people. It was very unsuccessful. So don't think they'd ever do it again. Personally,
it's one of those delicate things where if they do it wrong, it can do a lot more harm than good.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Absolutely. So yeah. I think that's it.
That is our conspiracy theory. It's a short one.
It was a short one this time. So, but we did have a long. It was a long news segment this morning, or today.
This
morning.
Jesus. This morning's episode of Loose Women.
Exhausted, man. So tired. But
I think we should call this Loose Men.
yeah.
We're loose. We're live.
No, I mean. It's a good one, man. We talked about a lot of good stuff, a lot of good important news things that we touched on, some games recommended to you lovely people.
Yeah, I think I probably exhausted myself out thinking more about what I was going to say than what I actually said.
Yeah.
Which is a bit annoying. But,
I'll tell you what, how about you find a conspiracy theory for next week?
Yeah.
Since I did this.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a good idea.
All right. Well, once again, thank you to everyone for watching, whoever did watch. As always, it's much appreciated from myself and to Sean. As always, thank you to Sean for joining me for this podcast. And for all the information on the conspiracy theory, everything will be down below. Any articles on Dying Light 2 or The Last of Us 2. Last of Us 2, I probably will avoid putting stuff down below, mainly because there's spoilers everywhere. But for Dying Light 2, I'll definitely include a few things down below if you want to go check those out.
Down below.
I'll try and include some live updates for the UK and everything down below, and the coronavirus updates as well. So yeah, if you want to go and check them out, they're all down in the description.
All right, we'll see you down below.
Yeah, we'll see you down in it. We'll see you down under, mate. It'll be a lovely time. Join us next time for some cracking banter. That is an awful Aussie accent. I'm so sorry. But yeah, no, thank you once again, Sean, for joining me, and hopefully everyone enjoyed. Oh, last thing, may as well talk about this quickly. Are we going to do it live next week, or are we going to continue like this? Because I'm back home next weekend. So, do you want to do it like this on the Saturday, or do you want to maybe do it live and then maybe go back to this for like 3 weeks and then do a live one, kind of like that?
I suppose we'll keep people posted about it during the week. We'll have a discussion about it.
Keep an eye on the Facebook page, because
it's going to be happening whether it's live or not. So you'll still see on Sundays.
Wave, Sean, quickly, wave, because I'm going to take a photo and then I'll put that on the page. But yeah, there you go. If you're watching this, you would have seen that post yesterday. But yeah, again, thank you, Sean, for joining me. It was very much a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. On this week's episode of Loose Men.
Yeah, and yeah, we'll speak to you guys next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I am who I'm meant to be. I am who I'm meant to be. Over and out again. My future needed clarity.